All right, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Morning Cafe, and I would love to call this edition a special one because this is Women's Month and International Women's Day will be celebrated this Saturday under the theme Accelerate Action. Basically, it's just a call to move beyond discussions, beyond promises, and into tangible change because, let's be honest, are we really progressing fast enough when it comes to safeguarding women's rights? And joining me for this sort of critical conversation, I have Gloria Madegwa, that is head of Programs Defenders Coalition, just right next to me, and Faith Goko, Executive Director, Healing Heart CBO. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
I want us to just start off with introduction, first of all. Gloria, Defenders Coalition, what is it about?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gloria Madegwa. I work with an organization called the Defenders Coalition, but the long name of it is the National Coalition of Human Rights Defenders. And our work is to ensure the safety, security, and well-being of human rights defenders, but of course with a specific theme on looking into women human rights defenders' concerns. And that is why I'm here today.
Amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Faith Goko, Healing Hearts CBO.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, first of all, for having me here. And I am Faith Goko. I'm a psychologist, a women human rights defender. And basically what we do in Healing Hearts is that we advocate for the rights of women and women in all their diversities. We advocate also for sexual reproductive health and rights. And also we do rescues on gender-based violence, sexual-based SPBV. Basically, it's all about women and women in all their diversities.
Yeah.
Yes, and their mental well-being as well. Yeah.
You know, we have a lot of human rights defenders or women rights defenders from what I'm getting, but we'll be getting deeper into that as we progress with this conversation. But I want us to move into a bigger picture now. The theme this year, Accelerate Action. It suggests that progress has been slower than it should be. Now, from where you sit, I just want to start with you, Gloria. Do you believe we are moving forward at a pace that matches the urgency of the issues that women face?
Thank you, Anne. Unfortunately, from where I sit, we are not moving fast enough. We are in the 13th year of implementation of our very progressive constitution, which has brought about, the progressive constitution has really focused on women's rights. And unfortunately, the pace at which implementation is being done is quite questionable. And I will start by the first issue that is in everybody's mouth, the two-third gender rule.
Yes.
Up to today, 13 years later, actually 15 years later, this year we'll be celebrating 15 years after the promulgation of the Constitution.
Yeah.
We have not managed to achieve the two-third gender rule as has been enshrined in the Constitution. And then also, Kenya is a signatory to international and regional mechanisms that speak directly to women's rights. Unfortunately, again, from that end, implementation of what Kenya is supposed to adhere to has not been as progressive and as fast as we would want. Case in point, this year again, we are going to mark 21 years since the Maputo Protocol was signed. And Kenya, as a signatory to that particular protocol, has its obligations that it has never reached up to today. For instance, we do not, the two-third gender role is very clear within the Maputo Protocol and how women need to be given spaces in different leadership positions.
Yeah.
That has not happened in Kenya. And therefore, my simple answer, unfortunately, we are very slow in implementing concerns of women in Kenya.
I love that you mentioned the two-third gender rule because we'll be getting into that as well. Faith, the Constitution of Kenya 2010, as Gloria mentioned it, is hailed as a landmark for gender equality, right? But 15 years later, we are still talking about implementing the gendered spirit of the Constitution. Why hasn't this been translated into tangible action or change?
Just to add on to what Gloria has just mentioned, sorry, my voice is a bit cracky today. Let me sip water.
All right.
Just to add on to that, we're still very far from liberating women in Kenya. Very far. A lot of things that have been mentioned in the Constitution and fighting against oppression against women, we are still far from it. And where I'm getting to answer your question, like things to do with female genital mutilation, things to do with the gender that role, things to do with early marriages, things to do with femicide is still on a higher scale, right? That means this tells us that, first of all, the government has failed us. The leaders have failed us. The political leaders have failed us. They have said we want that gender role to be implemented, but it's something easy said than done.
Yeah.
We still, even the women that we have in the parliament are still oppressed. They're not heard. And one of the reasons is we just go back to where oppression started from the word go. Women not being recognized, women not being on the tables where decisions have been made, women seen like they're less competent to deliver. And that is why the Constitution is just like a paper that is just there to say, we will do this, we will implement this, but they're not doing it. Because tell me why we have taken 15 years to pass something that is very simple, and we can't say that women have not vied for these positions to be in political spaces. They have done that, but they're not being recognized because patriarchy is still here with us. It's still dominating. It's still oppressing women. And I would basically say because of that, that is why we are still far, and we're very far from liberating women, very extremely.
We're doing badly.
Very bad.
All right.
And they're saying, sorry, they're saying that women are very empowered nowadays. Where? Show me. Like, we are empowered because we have refused to be caved in those shackles. We have refused. We are very few women that have shaken off the societal norms and how we were groomed to believe this is how a woman should live. But we are trying to liberate other women, but still,
not much
there's
is
a
being
very,
done.
very big gap. Yes.
Gloria, now, who do you think is actively resisting this implementation? Is it lack of political will, systemic failures, let's say about systemic patriarchy? Who exactly is actively resisting this implementation of the gendered spirit in the Constitution in terms of ensuring that women also get a seat in the table?
The truth of the matter, Anne, is that women's rights have not been prioritized in this country. Because for prioritized issues, we see the way they pass quite fast when they go to parliament and laws need to be passed. That is done very quickly. So the biggest concern, yes, there is no political will to support women's rights. We have seen an attempt in the current government by having an office of I think it's called the Office of Women's Rights, where our sister Harriet Chigai is the lead. I sit from a space where I am wondering, the office has been in existence for the last 2 to 3 years. A big concern that I have is that whatever we are speaking about, women being given priority in different areas, we are talking about issues of 15 years ago. Is it that this office is also not funded in terms of resources that they need? And even if it is funding that they need, where are the women at the grassroots level who are affected by lack of laws and lack of policies that are affecting women in this discussion? Have they been put on the table to also come and bring in their ideas, which do not necessarily mean that we need resources in terms of finances, but also ideas that women would bring? So from where I sit, there's no political goodwill to support women's rights in this country. There has been attempts, and that is where it ends, attempting it. As we know, late last year, again, there was a task force that has been brought into that has been formed to look on issues of femicide. We have seen they have sent out communication that memorandums should be sent so that at least they are able to bring one or two that they are able to write their report and actually get to understand what these issues are. But again, a concern is that is this particular task force at a position where, number one, it has the political goodwill, so that even the implementation that they would propose is actually going to happen.
Yeah.
That is, from where I sit, that is it. There's no political goodwill in terms of our budgetary allocations. From where I sit, I don't think it is prioritized in terms of resources that are going to ensure that women's rights are upheld in Kenya.
Faith, this office led by Harriet, do you think it's vocal enough in terms of addressing issues of women? Are women really safe with that kind of office? Because we still see a lot of cases of GBV, femicide, going, let's say, underjudged, you know? We have laws enacted, we have laws, policies that are there, but is that office really doing what it needs to do?
Just to start with, what has the government done with the high rise of femicide cases in Kenya? Nothing, right? Has the president himself addressed the issue as a pandemic? He hasn't. The petitions that we took as End Femicide Kenya movement, is there anything that has been done? We took them to all counties in this Kenya. Nothing has been done. That says that the office is dead completely. And that is one of the things, the office, when the office is not vocal enough to protect women, or rather to air out our grievances and everything that women are going through in Kenya. Because to start with, if as long as you're a woman in Kenya and a woman in all their diversities, you are not safe.
Yeah.
And the office being silent, it has affirmed the perpetrators. And that is why we will continue to have high cases of femicide, of gender-based violence. The thing is, the government been silent on femicide cases since last year, because that is when they escalated, having recorded so many women dying, and the government still says nothing. I heard or rather they did a press, they released 10 million to fight femicide. 100 million, sorry, to fight femicide. Has the women and the people on grassroots received anything?
Did you really feel the impact of that?
To be fair, the work has started. The task force that is being, the task force led by Dr. Nancy Baraza is the one that is leading that. So to be fair to them, we have just started. But also, as Faith is saying, we need to feel their impact.
Yeah.
Women at the grassroots, the institution I work with, we really ensure that we work with women at the grassroots. My concern would be, has this task force gone to the grassroots level to really hear women out? They have sent out a call that they would need memoranda. You and I know drafting a memoranda is not something easy. Women at the grassroots who day in, day out suffer as a result of femicide would be the ones to really offer what are the causes of femicide and how can we attack this animal called femicide. I am really wondering if there is a plan to engage with women at the grassroots level, or even with women who do not necessarily know how to read and write, but they understand what we are dealing with. And therefore, 3 months in, good thing, they have sent out a call for people to send out their memoranda. But the next steps is what I would really want to see. How are women being involved, both at higher level and the very low level? How are women being involved in ensuring that at the end of the day, femicide will be criminalized in this country? Because as we sit here, it is not a criminal. Femicide is not a criminal offense.
It's not actually addressed as femicide. It is just gender-based violence.
Yes.
And one of the things that we are pushing for is it's for femicide to be addressed as femicide. And as what Gloria was saying, we need inclusivity of people, both the women at the high spaces and these ones at the grassroots level. Because there's no way you're coming to make a decision for a mama mboga and you're not she's not on the table to make the decisions, or rather to say whatever they're going through. It's like going to fight FGM without having people who have actually realized that. Experienced FGM. It's like advocating for the rights of persons with disability without having the person with disability in the picture. So as long as they're making those decisions and implementing and calling for people to take the memorandums, they also need the inclusivity in those high spaces of making decisions.
Yeah, and you know, there's also this conversation between femicide and homicide. When do we now say that this is actually femicide and this is homicide, you know? Because you see, when you go on Twitter, there's this conversation and debate about, oh, a woman has been killed, now you claim that is femicide. Now, how do we draw this line and actually see that this is femicide, not homicide? Gloria.
Where we draw the line for me is a life lost. It doesn't necessarily need to be given a name tag or a reason. The truth of the matter is that someone has been killed. And unfortunately, most of the instances are women who have been killed. And therefore, that is the trajectory that people would want to take. But from a human rights perspective, a life lost is, or even one life lost, whether it's for a man or a woman, it should create jitters along different lines. For me, I think the conversation that Kenyans should be having right now is extremely different. We shouldn't be worried about semantics of homicide and femicide. We should be worried that not a day passes in this country, we wake up and we do not receive news that a woman, a girl, has been killed from somewhere.
But you see, the debate is now, why do we call it femicide? Because now the definition of femicide is the killing of a woman or girl, in particularly by a man and on account of her gender. Now, how do we now come and say this is not homicide? She wasn't just killed because she's a human being, but she was killed because of her gender, Faith.
The definition of femicide, according to me, it is intentional killing of women by men. That is how I understand it from a human rights defender.
Okay.
And when we start saying this is a homicide, this is a femicide thing, when we start now bringing the difference, trying to differentiate the two, we start affirming the perpetrator, we start victim blaming.
Now that is where the problem is?
Exactly.
Okay.
You remember last year when we had so many women and young girls being killed by men. And the victim blaming that was all over the social media is that walikuwa Airbnb, right?
Yeah.
One thing I always say is that, yes, safety starts with me. And before I meet you in that Airbnb, I had already taken my own precautions. I knew that I was safe with that person in that Airbnb. They decided to take advantage of that, of maybe my vulnerability as a woman, right? So when you start saying this is not a femicide case, this is a homicide case, we have started victim blaming. And that is one of the things that is affirming perpetrators right, left, and center in Kenya.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the man that was carrying the wife on a bag?
That was in January.
That was in January this year, right?
Yeah.
That talks a lot because and says a lot of how women's rights have not been implemented or rather safeguarded and protected, and how women are not protected. For a man to be, so sure that I can kill this woman, chop the body, and carry this body parts in my bag and walk freely, because there's so many women that have been killed and nothing has been done to those people. So when we start saying femicide and homicide, we start now victim blaming, which should not be the case. As Gloria has just mentioned, it's high time now people to start seeing it from a perspective of humanity, not what were they doing, meaning the conversation needs to change right now. Yeah.
But do you agree that now laws alone don't translate to safety or equality? Because laws are there on paper, you know. We have protect women against gender-based violence. We have a workplace, protect them against workplace discrimination, even political exclusion. But you see, these are not being implemented as it should. So what is the biggest gap between the law and implementation of women's rights and protection of women's rights?
From what I'm not quite sure what the challenge would be, because there are laws that actually protect women. But priority again becomes a concern. If a woman, like today, last year, 170 cases were recorded of femicide. Out of those cases, unless I am corrected, none of them has seen the light of day in court.
Yeah.
So is it that we are not prioritizing these issues? Do the police who investigate these cases, are they not prioritizing femicide cases? Because in most instances, and what we have, the reports that we have received with the women who are working at the grassroots level, when they receive cases of femicide, when they go to police station, they are asked for a lot of evidence that they themselves cannot produce. This squarely falls within the ambit of the security forces in this country in terms of investigation. So in terms of even prioritizing, because they will go to the police station hoping that they will get a gender desk that is actually working. And the truth of the matter, most of those gender desks at the police stations are not working. And therefore, you will find these cases just sliding because we do not have mechanisms for follow-up, number one. They are not prioritized in terms of investigations. And also, if people now come out for themselves to try and ensure that the cases see the light of day, unfortunately, they themselves become target.
Yeah.
Because they are being asked, why are you so involved in this case? We have had it and we are doing it, but the response becomes extremely slow, and that is the concern. So I think lack of prioritizing issues of women's rights is the biggest concern.
Faith, if we talk about enforcement being a challenge, who should we be holding accountable at this point? Is it the police? Is it the courts, lawmakers themselves? Who exactly?
To start with, as from Faith perspective, I will start with the lawmakers because they have not yet even implemented, or rather not implemented, created or come up with laws that are against femicide. You know, femicide is a serious issue, and I don't understand why it's overlooked in Kenya, to be specific. I don't understand why when a woman goes, because this is among so many other stories that we get to hear, when a woman goes to a police station to report, I've been harassed by my husband, I'm being beaten by my husband, they end up being told, you know what, mambo ya watu wawili hatuta nini, hataingililia. These are the cases, that's how it starts. Especially, you know, there's this athlete, may her soul rest in peace. She died, she was killed last year. And we were told that she had gone to the police station to report several times. But she was never given an ear or attention until she died, until she was killed by the man. She was actually put on fire. So you can try to imagine, before that soul died, the kind of pain she went through, right? So I will start by blaming everybody who has the authority, everybody that is in a higher place, from our local authorities to the lawmakers to the court, because justice delayed is justice denied. And prolonging that sentence, or rather justice, it costs a lot.
All right. We are talking about safeguarding women's rights ahead of International Women's Day on the 8th of March. This Saturday, we take a very short break at this point. We're coming back with Gloria Madegwe and Faith Goko. Stay with us.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home, do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side.
Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Morning Cafe. Right about now, we are talking about safeguarding women's rights. And of course, this is ahead of International Women's Day on Saturday, the 8th of March this year. The theme is Accelerate Action. So are we really making progress in terms of safeguarding women's rights? And we have Gloria Madegwa, Head of Programs, Defenders Coalition, and Faith Goko, Executive Director, Healing Hearts CBO. I wanted to now talk about powered leaders. You see, women's representation in leadership, whether in politics, business, or even governance, has increased, but not nearly as is expected. Why is it still so hard for women to take up these spaces, despite all this awareness that we have today, Gloria?
I feel, in comparison to yesteryears, I think women have really taken their spaces.
Yes.
Of course, not to that length, but as we can see, even right now politically, we have women that we actually vote in to represent women's rights and concerns the ground. So for me, that is a major success with regard to that. However, there's of course opportunity for us, for women, to continue to get this, to grab these spaces and actually do what is right. I think the major deterrence has been and continues to be the different gendered roles that women are perceived to have in society. So for instance, if you are a woman and of course at a childbearing age and you get this position that really needs you to be on top of your game all the time and on your feet, it becomes a deterrent. It is perceived to be a deterrent, and therefore we are pushed on the side. But from where I sit, we have really tried to come out as women and take these spaces as they come. Opportunity for enhancing the opportunities that we are taking. Yes, anything that might be a hindrance in terms of laws, not any that I can think of. I think it's just for us women to put our best foot forward and take that which belongs to us.
Confidence.
Yes, confidence.
All right, Faith, if you're talking about a double standard when we talk matters politics and women's position in leadership, they argue that it's either one is too soft, one is too aggressive. How do we now dismantle this bias?
First, I would say we have made a lot of progress by having women in leadership, especially. I love Nakuru, Naivasha County.
Nakuru.
There's a lot of women representation. But also, when we see the women in leadership, there's a lot of backlash that they get, even from the people that elected them or people from their own counties. There's this very insensitive comment that was made when women were elected in Nakuru that in relation to, that is, I would say that is cyberbullying, because the comment was like, when these women, imagine when these women, all of them are having their periods on the same time, at the same time. Can you imagine how the county will be like? That is such an insensitive comment coming from someone who owns a phone.
Yeah.
I mean, someone who owns a phone. So I would say that through the dialogues, having dialogues within the communities and dismantling also the culture and cultural norms, and getting to push for more women to present us. Because when there's a representation of women, even if it's not every woman who is pro-women, at least in a group of 4, 2 or 1 is pro-women, right? So I would say a lot of education in the grassroots areas, people just having this conversation that before you see me as a woman, first see me as a human being first. Before you start judging me because you start all that, first see someone as a human being who can deliver just the way this other person can deliver, right? So dismantling these things is just the way maybe tunasonga pole pole, people are getting to understand that women need to be in these political leadership spaces. Yeah. Women need to do this. Because, I mean, we have made progress. How many women right now are pro-women, are activists? They are dismantling everything that they were groomed to believe this is how women should be. So I would say a lot of progress has been done, and having these community dialogues and getting to remove the patriarchy in the picture, it's really helping to dismantle the myths and also misconceptions alongside women in leadership areas.
Yeah. Gloria, you mentioned something about the 2/3 gender when we were starting this conversation, and I said we will be getting into it. This is a legislative nightmare, if you do agree, and some argue that the fight of women taking up space in these parliamentary positions or leadership positions is misplaced, and that women should earn these positions through merit rather than quotas. You know, how does that make you feel, Gloria?
Women have already earned those spaces, so it is just a matter of them being handed over. But in terms of merit, that has already been done. And you see, we are coming from an era where women were not giving themselves up for leadership positions because of also the environment that was. Right now, as we speak, in a room full of, for example, you're in a room of 50 people and 40 of them are women. I can assure you that women will come out themselves to take up those positions and those leadership roles that are there for them to be, for them to take up and do what they do best. Women are not being handed over positions. What is happening is that women are now rightfully taking what is theirs within the Constitution. Previously, we did not have that leverage. It was all about the other gender being given priority in terms of them taking leadership positions because women were thought to be inferior and therefore they could not take up leadership positions. But now we are seeing that has really transformed. Yeah. Women are taking up their rightful positions and therefore they are not being handed over anything, down anything. They are taking up what is theirs, and they need to. And then I think there's a fear also from leadership. We know there's a saying in Kiswahili that palipo na mwanamke jambo haliharibiki. So when women take up positions, they really put their best foot forward to make sure that they are able to achieve what they have put themselves to achieve, what they want to achieve at the end of the day. And also, they're not going to be twisted to do things that they do not believe in. And therefore, that is the fear. And that is the reason why we are still in this cocoon of being pushed left and back and forward, because there is some sort of fear. What if women take over? We saw when Martha Karua put her best foot forward and said she wanted to be on the ballot as the first woman in this country to be president. It brought jitters to people, because I also feel that people, we are not ready for a woman leader. Reason being, if women take control, things are going to change, and not just change, but change for the better.
Faith, when you're talking about women being in leadership and that causing a lot of jitters in the country, does it mean that the leaders, the women leaders who have been ahead of us, they didn't do enough representation, and that's why the current ones are being fought? Or what is the problem exactly?
I wouldn't blame them. They have done a lot of work. Yes. Actually, being there in the leadership, in the table where decisions have been made, that's a very huge step.
Yes.
There. It shows that, because I always say most of us were groomed, not raised, groomed to believe this and this. We were groomed to believe most of leadership spaces deserve the other genders are the one. The other gender is the one that deserves it. But now, just having them in that leadership position, it's actually a very big step, and they have represented us well. But there's still a lot of work. Just as I mentioned, there's still a lot of work for us. We still have a long way for us to liberate women. One of the things that I always even say is that we incorporate sexual gender-based violence curricula even in schools. We start fighting gender-based violence from a young age. It will help a lot to dismantle a lot of myths and misconceptions that we have been made to believe. So I wouldn't blame the women. Imagine Wangari, imagine blaming the late Wangari Maathai. You know, she did a lot of work.
Absolutely.
It's because of her we are here. It's because of so many women that decided to do this and do that. We are here right now as women human rights defenders. Were it not for them, we wouldn't have known that women can actually be vocal and fight these things. We will still be in the shackles where we were made to believe this is where we deserve to be as women. So I will definitely say they did a lot of representation. And now it's our time to do a lot of things. And what we are doing here is something that I pray and I hope for the next generation, a decade later, the next generation will not be on the street saying stop killing women, and will not be on the street saying that women rights are human rights. Yeah.
And you know, when you're talking about women rights defenders, I know that you are part of that team. And you know, sometimes this has been termed as feminism, and we will agree that feminism in this country has been very much misunderstood. And we have many women getting scared or being very optimistic about identifying themselves as feminists because they are associated with radicalism, you know? Now, what exactly is wrong with this? You know, when we talk about feminism, from your point of view, let's just start with the introduction. How you would say this to that common Mwananchi? Because, like I've said, this is something that is very much misunderstood in this country.
Feminism, from a very low level definition of feminism, is just standing up for the rights of women. For like that is the basic, most easy way to define what feminism is. But on the other hand, let us also remember that there are people who might not necessarily be identifying as women, but are also feminists, pro-feminism, ensuring that women, ensuring that women's rights are given priority. They are looked into with the seriousness that it deserves. And therefore, when people stand out and defend feminism in this country, it feels like people are now, people are being very aggressive. Yes, being aggressive and ganging up against the other gender, which is extremely a bad misconception because that is not it. And the reason why feminism has actually been given priority is that we have just discussed here about the women who came before us.
Yes.
It has not been easy to, even to get this space where Faith and I today are. It was not easy in the yesteryears because women feminism was seen as a non-issue and therefore it was pushed on the corner. Right now, because of the advocacy and the agitation that has been out here, that we need to be given our spaces for us to speak for ourselves, number one, but also to bring out the concerns that we have. And also just for people to understand that at the end of the day, we are just women, but inside us, we are human beings.
Yes.
And that is what I think brings a lot of concern when we now fight for our rights as feminists, our rights as women, ensuring that we get the rightful spaces that we are supposed to get in different spaces that we are in. And therefore the agitation comes in from a point of people just are not ready for the change that would come if feminists were given the opportunity to do things the right way, and also to be given opportunities to leadership.
Interesting. Faith, I would love to also get your opinion on that. Manake, this is quite an interesting view on feminism. Because you see sometimes just a lady will post up something, let's say on X, because I'm very much active on that app, and you see comments saying, oh, feminists work on issues, feminists, oh, this and this. Why is this very much misunderstood in this country?
I would say it's ignorance. Because one, especially the misconception where people say feminists want to be men. No, we don't want to be men. We are not fighting men. We want gender equality. And one thing, when you identify as a feminist or you get to know what feminism is, you get to be empowered. You know, you get to learn a lot of things, especially even around bodily autonomy, around consent. You are breaking the shackles. You are no longer confined by whatever the society has made you to believe, or rather has cornered you to be and to believe in. So the minute I hear somebody bashing a feminist, I know that is ignorance, first of all. And there's this thing that has been happening, especially in X. They say feminists are bitter, single mothers. We are not bitter. We're just empowered. We just I love this year's theme, accelerate action. So we are just aggressive in what we know belongs to us. Because if I come and tell you about bodily autonomy as a woman, even if you're married to a man or whoever you're married to, when I tell you about that, kuna ile ka backlash, because bodily autonomy is a whole lot of conversation, right? When you talk about sexual reproductive health and rights, there's a whole conversation. So when you get empowered and then this person sees, this person, umejielewa sana, you know what serves you, you know what doesn't serve you, you will not settle for things that do not sit well with you, then they start thinking you're just a bitter human being, you're just a single unmarried person. So me basically always say people who bash feminists are just ignorant people. They just don't want to see women being empowered, and women are just empowered, and we are very much okay.
You're a single mom. That is my favorite comment on it. And Gloria, do you think this misunderstanding is deliberate, just maybe as a way to legitimize the women's rights movement?
There you are, Anne. It's very deliberate. Because when women are liberated, and finally gender equality is realized, things are going to change. And people are not ready for change. And therefore, the bashing, the branding of feminists being all these names that we have used here is nothing else but just to veer off what women want to achieve at the end of the day. It's just a distraction tactic. And the fortunate bit is feminists are not taking that route. We are focused. We know where we want to end up at the end of the day, and we know exactly why we are fighting for gender equality in this country.
Yes, I would like actually to add something. I think people, just what you have said, people are not ready for change. I think people are just scared. After all this empowerment, then what? I think people are just not ready for the change.
For what women can do.
Yes, because they actually know, you know. Right now, we have phones that you can Google and understand feminism. So that is why I always say, this is ignorance.
Yes.
It's ignorance.
Google is your friend.
Make Google your friend.
You know, we are talking about women's empowerment, and this is a conversation that we've had time and time again. But even as we talk about women taking spaces, we see that economic and political participation of women remains quite dismal. Have we been more focused on optics rather than real empowerment? Gloria.
Yeah. When we started, I made a comment and I said that priority has not been given. And for us to empower women, we need, number one, to get to see political will, at least from the leadership of any given government. And then number two, we also need to resource this particular economic or empowerment that we are looking at. That is not there. We cannot see it and we cannot feel it. And therefore, the lack of political will is what has made us be where we are right now. And therefore, you will see most of the economic empowerments that women are getting, especially at the grassroots level, leadership empowerment that women are getting at the grassroots level, is actually done by non-governmental organizations, because they know when a woman is empowered, at least at that level, there is a lot that needs to be made. So I think prioritizing women's issues, women's concerns has never been an agenda for any leadership of this country. And therefore, years later, we are still speaking about things that should have been dealt with years and years ago. And I really wanted to say something. The women who came before us are the ones who have made us be what we are today. They made the best out of what they had then, with the very shrinked spaces that they had, and still their voices were out there. And therefore, it is my hope and prayer that moving forward, the leaderships, the governments that will come, will prioritize women's rights as an issue that needs to be addressed in this country.
So we agree that you're still focused on optics. Real empowerment, bad.
Yes, real empowerment. We've just talked about the office that is within the presidency of this country. And it leaves a lot to be desired. We are yet to see what it's all about. How can women really get support from that particular office? We are yet to see that, and therefore, yes, it is more or less optics as we speak right now.
Time is running, but I wanted, you see, the conversation around men being allies on conversations that surround women's rights is also something that has been given prominence when talking about men as allies in ending gender-based violence. And when we now relate this to ensuring gender equality, some argue that men need to be allies in this to ensure that there's equality for women as well, while others say that they should just sit back and let women lead. Faith, what's your take on that?
My take is that we need to see, both genders need to sit down, and we need men here on this table because they're the ones killing women. There's a comment that I came across yesterday and I was just laughing. Someone said, what if in this world we didn't have men? Who would protect you? And then, from who?
I saw it.
From who are you protecting me? So we need men on the table. We actually have men allies. We have them, people that believe in humanity. But for you to be an ally, you need to first believe in humanity. This is just, it's just a conversation that women can't, we can do it, but we need both to be able to come up with something that makes sense. Because it's not women killing women. It is men killing women. So as much as they're in that area of violence, we also need them here in being able to come up with things that will help us to move on forward and have a place where women feel safe and free and liberated. So this is not a one-man show. No.
Everyone should be here.
Everyone should be here.
Okay. Now, we were talking about there being so many women rights defenders who, and I said we are going to talk about it as we close this conversation. Do you think there's something holding you guys back from actually achieving your goal in terms of just helping women, safeguarding women's rights, fighting for these women who are going through SGBV, GBV? Is there anything holding you back, Gloria?
Yeah, a lot of challenges. And number one, lack of political will. There's no political will to support women in this country, and therefore that becomes a concern. On issue of femicide, which is a very big issue, and women human rights defenders are actually at the forefront of ensuring that this vice is criminalized. But a lot of challenges we meet. Number one, I have just spoken about lack of investigations in these cases. They are not prioritized, and therefore that becomes a challenge for women to get justice. And then also number two, when these cases get to court, the court process is quite slow, and therefore again that becomes a challenge. Investigation of cases or issues that touch on women again are not prioritized.
Yeah.
That is a challenge again. So women human rights defenders face a lot of challenges when they come to the forefront to try and speak against femicide, and also just try to make sure that victims and survivors of femicide get justice.
Faith, I know Gloria has touched on a lot of things, but time is not on our side. I just want you to touch on the event that you guys have on Saturday on the International Women's Day in 1 minute, please.
Is to celebrate women human rights defenders. We come together, and you know, the minute you see each other in a room and celebrate each other, you always know that you are not alone. You're not doing this alone. And also to re-strategize on how to tackle things and how to move on forward, and how to end this monster called femicide and SGBV in Kenya. Definitely, in just a nutshell, is to celebrate, because at the end of the day, we need to be celebrated as well, and also re-strategize and see what we are doing right, what we are not doing right. And it's women in all counties that we have in this Kenya that will come together and being hosted by Defenders Coalition, which we are so grateful they are doing that. Because at the end of the day, sometimes you need someone to tap you and tell you, you know what?
You're doing amazing.
You're doing amazing.
All right. Thank you so much. That is Gloria Faith Goko, Executive Director, Healing Heart, CBO, and Gloria Madegwa, Head of Programs, Defenders Coalition. Happy International Women's Day, because I won't see you again. All right. The theme this year is Accelerate Action, not to talk more about it, not hope for the best, just a call to move with urgency, with determination, and with real consequences for inaction. And that brings us to the end of this conversation ahead of International Women's Day this coming Saturday. I'll be here again to hopefully wish you, the women watching, an happy International Women's Day on Friday. But right about now, we go to the farm. Dragon fruit farming is coming up next. Stay with us.